former Defense Secretary Robert Gates on the future of Afghanistan.
This week on 60 Minutes, we talked with former Defense Secretary Robert Gates, who oversaw the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan for nearly 5 years. This past June, before the troop withdrawal, Gates wrote an op-ed saying we cannot turn our backs on Afghanistan. You wrote about Afghanistan. You wrote, why should we assume that they'll no longer harbor al-Qaeda and other terrorist groups that seek to target those, above all the United States, that ousted them from power and have been fighting them for 20 years? I mean, do you believe Afghanistan under the Taliban is going to become a terrorist state?
I think we should worry a lot about it. And I think, ironically, I think the Russians and the Chinese worry a lot about it. And, the Chinese have sought explicit commitments from the Taliban that they won't allow terrorist organizations to operate. No, I think it's a very real worry. The Taliban have never disavowed their relationship with al-Qaeda, and they haven't done it since they took power.
They've lied repeatedly, at the negotiating table.
Yeah, and I don't see why anybody could rely on the Taliban to do anything very constructive from our standpoint.
Does the U.S. have leverage now over the Taliban?
Well, I'm not sure what we do at this point. We do have the leverage of the money, but I think in some ways the administration may be overconfident that the Taliban will think the money is determinative. I think that the Taliban are likely to get a fair amount of assistance from China, probably from Russia, probably from Iran. And the UN is going to do some humanitarian things in terms of prospective famine and so on in the country. But the one thing about these despotic authoritarian leaders, whether it's Saddam Hussein or the Taliban or the Ayatollah, they don't much care what happens to the people in their country. It's about power, getting it and keeping it. And to think they will make significant compromises in their objectives in order to gain access to monies the United States holds, I'm not sure that's a bet I'd take.
When he was Defense Secretary, Gates was behind President Obama's controversial decision to send a surge of 47,000 U.S. troops into Afghanistan in 2009 and 2010. The goal was to try to reverse Taliban gains, and we wondered, knowing what he knows now, what does he think of that decision? Was the surge a mistake?
No, I don't think so. I think I would make the same recommendation today because it did improve the security situation in Afghanistan, and particularly in the areas where the Taliban had been the most active. Really seriously improved the security situation. The surge in Iraq basically created a situation where normal life could take place because the security situation had improved sufficiently. More or less, the Iraqis took at least some advantage of the opportunity that the sacrifices of our troops presented them. I think what happened after the surge in Afghanistan was that the Afghans were unable to do the same in terms of creating a sustainable environment. The corruption of the government, the incompetence of the government really prevented the government from ever gaining traction with a lot of people in the country. But I think that the surge was necessary because the security environment was getting significantly worse in Afghanistan by the end of 2006. It was either the surge or continue on a path that was not leading anywhere.
But an improved security situation is not a victory. Did you see signs that a win was possible?
For me, a win was enabling the Afghan government to be strong enough to defend itself against the Taliban, period.
In an interview on 60 Minutes in 2011, you said, we are getting the upper hand. I think we could be in a position by the end of this year, 2011, where we have turned the corner in Afghanistan. It's a little bit like the light at the end of the tunnel.
I think at the end of 2011, or in 2011, we were seeing the benefits of that surge. And what we didn't realize is that those gains would last only as long as the U.S. kept that kind of a force in there.